In this video, we're going to be checking out the Hasbro Marvel Legends Avengers Infinity War. This is the Iron Spider. So let's go ahead and figure out how tall Spider-Man is. He's going to be smaller than the other Marvel Legends that we've looked at. In fact, Spider-Man is 5 3/4 of an inch tall. To show you what that size translates to, we'll move Iron Spider out of the way and look at Iron Man, the very first figure that we looked at in this series. If I get into the stand, you can see there's a considerable height difference, as it should be. Of course, Tom Holland and Spider-Man are much smaller than, say, the likes of Iron Man here. Using over $3,000 to transition out Iron Man to Thanos' leg, this is the leg that comes included with Spider-Man. It does have double hinge on the knee, and not really much in the way of color. Has a little bit of gold, mind you, but the rest of the coloring is almost more of like a brownish black. We'll go ahead and reach off camera and grab Thanos where we left off on him. And we'll wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Get the leg in place. And that's what he looks like so far. I don't think he could conquer much. He could just really run around and bump into things. But until we get a head and two arms going, Thanos is not really going to be much of a threat at all. Let's move him out of the way. Unfortunately, that is the only accessories that come included with the wall crawler. He doesn't come with any sort of interchangeable hands, which is one problem I have with this particular figure, and one ongoing problem that I have with specific Marvel Legends Spider-Man. So it's not all of them, because there are instances in which you do get the Spider-Man figure coming with extra hands, but I don't know why the Iron Spider had to only come included with web shooting hands. This is fantastic, but if you collect enough Spider-Man, you really get tired and burned out by web shooting hands all the time. So a breath of fresh air could have been to include some just relaxed hands, or even at the very least gripping hands. Granted, yes, you could easily tap into your treasure chest of previously picked up Spider-Man and just find hands that would suit these. You'd have to make sure you'd grabbed ones that are of the same shade of red. So again, like I wish that they could have included a pair of relaxed hands and not necessarily always go to web shooting hands. Speaking of web shooting hands, unfortunately the fingers here on one of Spider-Man, actually that's not even true, both hands have warped fingers. So it's not bad enough that we get web shooting hands, but also the fingers on those said web shooting hands have a permanent curl to them. They're warped, unfortunately. Oh, shucks. Anyways, the figure itself is actually quite nice. If I could come clean, not that I have a lie detector test hooked up to my arm, or maybe I do. I'll leave that thought with you. I have to come clean. I don't like this costume. Not one bit. I like the figure. I don't like the costume. I kind of wish that he had just kept... I know he's granted supposed to have a more armored up costume look in Infinity War, but I kind of just dig the regular Spider-Man costume. I think this is slightly on the garish side. That's just, again, my own personal preference. It really has no mileage, or I'd like to think it has no mileage when I'm reviewing this figure if I don't like the costume. If I don't like the costume, that's one thing. That shouldn't weigh at all on the actual figure itself, and I've done that in other reviews too. If I don't like the costume, I could still like the figure that the costume, well, the figure that the suit, the figures based on that suit. Even if I don't like the costume, I just don't really like. I find this is overly busy. Excessive amounts of gold. The web spider's way too big, in my own honest opinion, and just unnecessary additional stuff happening. Less is more, and yet Iron Spider gets much, much more. Oh, so much more. Okay, so I'm going to cut out my own biased opinions towards the costume. Let's look at the figure itself. Well, how could you weigh in on a figure when you already have a predetermined opinion of it? Well, I still think the figure is actually quite nice. Very clean, very well applied, very well executed. It looks like he is using his own, it looks like they have given him his own mold. Probably have just retooled another Spider-Man and just gone in and added some new tweaks and twerks to the existing mold to give us this. Because as you can see, Spider-Man here is a little bit more scaly, a little bit more armored up. Even like areas as bare and vacant as the legs have these additional kind of panel lines, which aren't even like so much panel lines as they are raised from the rest of the plastic, which is really good. Just a whole lot of gold, just a whole lot of panel lines, just a whole lot of stuff. As much as I don't really like this, I have to admit it's really clean, actually. It's not quite blue. I mean, the red, it's not quite just a regular blue. Let me just say that. It's almost more like a metallic, dark, dark blue. Equally so, it's not quite a red. It's more like a dark, almost metallic sort of cranberry. But everything comes together actually quite nicely. Between the texturing, which I guess they really could have just left flat, but they did go in and put a lot of extra care and detail to it. The web is still incorporated into the red aspects of it, while the blue has sort of that kind of, hard to describe, kind of cross-hatching sort of texturing to the plastic. Even like the gold areas are raised from themselves, raised from the rest of the boots. So they didn't just phone it in. Spider-Man generally, they don't just phone in anyways. They always seem to do a lot more when it comes to Spider-Man figures versus, say, maybe other Marvel Legends figures. But I really do think everything comes together very nicely here. Granted, yes, I don't like the costume, but I do like this figure. And if that sounds slightly conflicting to you guys, from a figure standpoint, I think it looks glorious. Do I want to see this necessarily in the movie? Probably not. Having a look at his head, which I really almost didn't spend any time on. I was almost about to wrap up this endeavor close-up shop for the day. I like the face, but the only thing is, as the hiccup goes for the figure, is the face. The face is good, but it almost seems as if they just literally popped the head off, made the armor, and then took another Spider-Man head, which carries none of the shinier plastic. Almost, in fact, doesn't even carry the same shade of red. It's a completely different shade. Now that I pull off the head, does it not look like this is from a completely different movie Spider-Man than, say, the rest of the armor? So we plop the head back on. Now that you know that, now you probably will see it too. You're welcome. That's my job. That's what I do. So I like the head sculpt, but I like it for the wrong reasons. I like it as a Spider-Man movie costume head, but I don't think it really goes for the rest of the body. It just seems like they took the head and plopped it right on top of the shoulders for an otherwise completely different color schemed costume. Now we can start closing up shop. Okay, so let's have a look at his posability, which will start with the head. Head rotates all the way around via a ball joint, a hinge back and forth. He's also got the collapsing arm articulation, in which the arms can be brought forward or back. You can also rotate the arms independently. Swivel at the bicep. Double hinge on the elbow. Swivel on the hand, which also hinges back and forth for that matter. Upper torso crunch. Waist swivel. Legs split. Top swivel cut on the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. And last, but certainly not least, not only does he have the ankle pivot, but he also can rock the ankles back and forth. Rock me gently, rock me slowly. Peg holes on the undersides of his feet, by the way, so if you want to get a little bit more creative with displaying Spider-Man, you can certainly do that by the incorporating of a display stand. No, a display stand is not included with Spider-Man. You'd have to get your own. So do I like the new Iron Spider costume? No. No, I don't. It feels something like what we would have pulled out of from a 90s Spider-Man comic, where a new guy comes in, wants to design up the Spider-Man costume, but still kind of keep it rooted in its more traditional sense. I find the extra golds and just all this extra stuff to be overly busy, but that's just the movie costume. The figure, I like. The figure's got some really dark blue metallics, some dark red metallics, and otherwise I just think a lot of stuff's happening on this figure in more of a good way than physically seeing it on film, especially liking the golds and stuff like that as well. The only nitpicks about this particular Spider-Man is the fact that he doesn't come with interchangeable hands. So exhausted by web shooting hands all the time. Stop the madness. Can we just get extra hands and call it a day? And the only other thing I would say about this specific figure, as good as the head sculpt may be, it does seem like it had come from a different Spider-Man altogether. It doesn't quite match, doesn't quite gel with the darker reds in the rest of his body, and the rest of the plastic in his body, specifically those reds, are a more shinier presentation. So I don't find like the head sculpt, as good as it may be, I don't find it really looks like it's supposed to belong to this costume. Rather something that they just pulled off another Spider-Man and plunked on top of the poor shoulders here. Good overall figure. It's a really nice looking Spider-Man. Just not super crazy when it comes to the costume. Today, though, we were having a look at the Hasbro Avengers Infinity War. This was Iron Spider, one step closer, ladies and gentlemen, to building ourselves Thanos. Of course, many more videos will come as we get closer and closer to our goal of building ourselves Thanos. So certainly stay tuned for that. If you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. I know I mentioned it in the looks at the previous, I guess, 3 figures that we've looked at so far. But if you guys want to see more Marvel Legends figure reviews on this channel, you guys can help with your views. Views certainly will dictate the kind of content that you see on this channel. And it's not necessarily a case of holding anything hostage, but if you really want to think about it, like specifically here in Canada, to pick up these figures, I couldn't find them in stores. And I'm going to be real here. Couldn't find them in stores, so I had to get them online. And I had to get them on eBay, and I had to get them shipped to me. When it was all said and done, I think this set cost me about $340. And I don't mean to say that to be a negative Nelly, but $340. And when traffic comes to this channel and I post, like, say, for example, Marvel Legends figure reviews, and they get like 500 views, it just doesn't seem like you guys are all that interested in me covering this sort of stuff. If you guys want to really see more stuff like this, let me know down below in the comments section. I always like reading comments from you guys, and you guys can certainly speak speak what you want to see with views. Views really at the end of the day tells me the type of content that you guys want to see more of. I know, like, I do a lot of horror figure reviews, and those usually translate to good traffic. I love horror figures, but you guys want to see more superhero stuff, let me know and express that with your views. All right. So we got a little heavy there. Certainly, like I said, guys, more videos are going to be coming your way. We're going to wrap up the rest of the Avengers Infinity War stuff, so hopefully you guys will be looking forward to seeing those. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.